Hi, my name is Mike. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the battery on the Garmin Forerunner 305. And if you're watching this video, you're probably like me. You probably own a Garmin 305. It died on you, and you're wondering if and how can you replace the battery. Well, the good news is you can replace the battery, and you can do it a lot cheaper than sending it into Garmin. I think their replacement process is somewhere between I think it's about $100. Using this process here, you can literally replace the battery for about $10 to $15. So there are other videos like this on YouTube, and I encourage you to take a look at them because I'm not sure if mine's are any better. I think I'm hoping that the one advantage I have is I have better video equipment, so hopefully my voice and the video is coming through clearly. And I'll go very slowly. So the first thing I want to say is I've had this device for 3 years, and for 3 years, literally no problem. I've road races, triathlons, duathlons, mountain biking, swimming. I've used it for just about everything. In fact, I've actually done a Tough Mudder event in them where you're crawling through the mud, and I never had a problem. And but recently it started dying on me. You know, when I first got it, I would recharge the battery maybe once a week, and then it got to every 2 or 3 days, then once a day. Then it got to the point where it wasn't making it through a whole day of training. Although I'll be honest with you, what I do nowadays, you can hardly call it training. But you know, I'm what you call a hobby jogger. But I still get into the whole aspect of, you know, recording my heart rate and getting splits, and being able to go back and look at my logs and see how I did in another run versus and compare my runs over time. So I don't remember the price of this device. It was given to me as a gift. I would imagine it was somewhere between $200 and $300, probably closer to $300, and it's worth repairing. You know, it doesn't have all the features that some of the newer devices have, but if you're a runner like me, you're looking for just a couple things. You want it to record accurate time, accurate distance, and accurate heart rate, and this device does all of that. It's stood the test of time. And again, if you're watching this video, you probably know that, and that's why you've decided it's worth repairing. So the most important thing, you know, at the heart and soul of this whole process is the battery. And this is the battery. And I think what makes my video probably a little bit simpler is the fact that most of the videos, people are using an iPad mini battery, and that causes a few extra steps. Well, the battery I have is an actual battery that was made for the Garmin 305. I bought it on eBay, and I think it was probably $6.99, $7.99. It wasn't more than $10. And it came from a company called, I'm going to put my glasses on. I don't normally wear glasses, but the writing is so small. It's coming from a company called Battery Center USA. And again, I don't have stock in this company, but it's the one I saw and it fit my needs. So it's called Battery Center USA. Center spelled C-E-N-T-R-E. And again, I'll put a link on there. And I think what's also good about this particular battery is it actually comes with a warranty, although I doubt you'll actually apply the warranty to a $9 purchase. But it actually does come with the instructions, and I don't think any other batteries came with the instructions, and the fact that it's made specifically for the Garmin device. But I'll get into the whole process of how you install the battery, but I think it was also good that it talked a little bit about the process of charging it. Okay, so the tools you'll need is, one, obviously, you need to get yourself a battery. Again, I suggest you get one made specifically for the Garmin Forerunner 305. You're going to need some electrical tape. You probably already have this somewhere at home. If not, you can pick it up at your local Home Depot. You might even be able to get it in a supermarket. You're going to need a toothpick. And each video I saw had different types of glues and epoxies. I'm actually using General Electric premium waterproof silicone, and this is the basic silicone that you would use for as an adhesive in your kitchen, bath, or doing some type of plumbing work. Again, you can get this in Home Depot, Lowe's, or your local hardware store. You're going to need scissors. Basically, the scissors are to cut the tape and to cut the tip off of the glue. You're going to need a Q-tip. You'll probably need 2 or 3 of these, and I'll show you what that's used for in a little bit. You're going to need wire cutters. You could get by without the wire cutters, but it's best to have a pair of wire cutters, and you might want to buy these because you'll probably end up finding other uses for these beyond this project here. You'll also need a clamp, and again, as I move through the video here, you'll see what the clamp is used for. Alright, so there's one step I've done already that I'll somewhat repeat so that you can see how it's done. The first thing you'll need to do is you have to open up the watch, and the watch is basically put together with glue. It's 2 pieces to it, and you'll see a seam, and just take a knife or some device and just sort of cut along the seam here. And while you're cutting along the seam, basically what you're doing is you're removing the glue. And after you've cut along the seam pretty well, just sort of wedge your tool in there and then just sort of slowly pry it open. And then voila, it opens up. As you can see, this is the original battery right here. So once it's open, the first thing I did was took a Q-tip, and then I took some alcohol, poured it in the top here, and just dabbed it in the alcohol and cleaned around the edges. Well, the first thing I did was I actually took the tool here and I scraped around the edges on this side, and then I scraped around the edges on this side. And after I scraped up as much as I could, I actually took the Q-tip with alcohol, and then I just sort of worked my way around the edges here. Just worked my way around the edges. Put more alcohol on it and took the other half. Same thing, worked my way around the edges. By the way, I found most of the glue on this half of the watch. So worked around the edges. Okay. And after I got all the glue off, the next thing was to remove the battery. And the battery is simply on here with glue. And you can pry this up, just get underneath it. Pry it, you're not going to break anything, pry it. And once you've gotten it pried up pretty well, just take it off like this. Alright, so this is the battery. And the next thing is I'm going to take my wire cutters and I'm going to cut as close to the battery as possible because I want to maintain as much of the wire as possible. So I'm going to snip, boom. Alright, so that's the old battery. That's clipped. Alright. Then the next thing I'm going to do is the replacement battery comes with some little tape on it. I'm going to remove that. It also has some of the wires. There's a red wire and a black wire. Positive and negative. Same here, positive and negative. As you can imagine, you're going to be connecting the positive to positive and negative to negative. Black to black, red to red. And I think I should let you know, by opening this device, I would assume you have voided your warranty. But if you're watching this video, that's probably not a concern. And I just dropped my microphone. So I'm going to remove a little more wire from the replacement battery. Then I'm going to do the same on the wires on my Garmin. I'm actually removing about maybe maybe 1/4 of an inch. One of the things I suggest doing is actually holding the wire down. You don't have to have any type of needle noses like this, but you can do it with your fingers. I just happen to have a pair of needle noses, but I would hold it down because you don't want to cut the battery and inadvertently pull the wire out. So I'm holding a wire, and then I'm going to clip off about maybe a little more than 1/4 of an inch. Repeat that. 1/4 of an inch. Okay. There you go. 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. So personally, I didn't think any part of this process was super challenging, but you know, if you've gotten this far, you've probably done maybe the most challenging part of it, and that's just simply getting the device open, prying it apart. So what we're going to do right now is, as you can imagine, we're going to connect the positive to positive and negative to negative. Red wire to the red wire and black wire to the black wire. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the two wires. It doesn't matter which one you start with. In this case, I'm starting with the red wire, and I'm simply going to put the two wires together and twist them. And in the electronics world, this is what's called a pigtail. So I'm just going to twist them really good. Then I'm going to fold it over. Okay. Then I'm going to repeat that process with the two black wires. I'm going to twist them together. I know you probably can't see right now, but I will. I'm right-handed, and which means the camera should have been on my right side instead of my left side, but I'm shooting over my shoulders. Twist it really, really good. Okay. And then you're going to fold it over. Okay. All right, so once you have that done, the next thing you're going to do, you're going to take your electrical tape and you're going to make it into smaller pieces. Take this and then cut this in half. You want to wrap one around the black. Like I said, beyond getting the device open, this is the second most delicate part of the process, because anytime you're working with electronics, you're always dealing with small stuff, and if you don't have perfect vision, it can be cumbersome. So what I'm doing right now, I've connected the two wires together and make sure that they're taped really good together, squeeze them down really well. And after I have them taped together, I'm going to take another piece of tape and tape those two wires together. Now, the part of the process right now is, besides opening up the device, is definitely the more challenging and more detailed. Simply the fact that it's just a small confined space, which is almost always the case when you're dealing with small electronics. It's also the part of the process where I'm probably going to get the most blowback, because an electronic purist will say, you know, you should have soldered the wires together, and that's a good thing to do. If you own a soldering iron and you know how to solder, by all means solder the wires together. I chose to tape them together, and you'll see what I'll do. I'm going to tuck them on the side. Generally, wires, I splice them together. When I solder, it's usually because I'm connecting wires to a piece of metal, a PCB, or some other type of fixed part of a component. But when it's wires, I tend to just splice them together. Sometimes I will solder them too. And like I said, if you own a soldering iron and you know what you're doing, by all means do it. But my way of doing it, it saves money. You know, a soldering iron, and it's about $20 extra, and soldering is not a complicated thing, but there is a little bit of an art to it. And I think if you're not comfortable doing that, you know, you probably have as much chance of getting it wrong as you do of getting it right. So I've taped these two together. I think also too is when you buy the correct battery, you actually have a little extra space to kind of tuck wires in, so you know it can handle being taped. Okay, so the wires are taped together, and the next thing I'm going to do is, before going forward with any other parts of the process, I need to make sure that that I have a good connection, that it works. So what I'm going to do is put the battery in there. I'm going to close it back up and then hold it together with my hands. Then I have my cradle, and I'm going to plug it in. And again, you need to hold it together because it hasn't been glued. I'm going to put it in the cradle and squeeze it. And the fact that it says battery charging in process, battery charging in progress, means that I got a good connection, the battery is working, and I can proceed to the next step. Take it out of the cradle and open it back up. Okay, so what I did was I just simply tucked the wires on the side here. And again, if you have the correct battery, the Garmin 305 4-runner battery, you have more than enough space. And the battery actually puts pressure against the wires and holds them in place so that they don't move. Now, the next thing is I'm going to take my silicone, clip the top off, and I'm going to put a little on the back of the battery. This right here is what holds the battery in place. Squeeze it down. Okay. Then I'm going to put silicone in here. Doesn't take a whole lot. Close it back up. Then I'm going to take a Q-tip and simply go around the edge. In the process of putting on the silicone, if you're going to get messy, try to make the mess more to the inside as opposed to the outside. And if we do have some excess, what we'll do is we will go back and kind of clean off the sides. Okay, so what I've just done is put silicone on both sides, all around both sides of the device. And I've been pretty liberal with the amount of silicone I've used, because you have to keep in mind that the silicone is not just an adhesive, it's also acting as the weatherproofing. Now, with that said, once you've opened the watch up and done this process here, I would never submerge the watch in water. Not that I ever did that anyway, but I would assume that from this point on it's weatherproof, which means you can go running. It can certainly get wet, but I'm going to assume that the manufacturer's process of sealing it is probably better than what me or you are going to do. So from that point on, I would no longer submerge the watch in water, which is not something I ever did anyway. But I go all around the edges, getting off the excess silicone. So once I'm comfortable that I have wiped away all of the excess silicone, and make sure I've wiped all of it, I don't think you need to worry about the wiping damaging the sealing process. That's why when I'm applying the silicone, most of it, for me, ends up going on the inside of the edges of the watch. And so once I've done that, I make sure the contacts are dry. I have my trusty clamp. I'm going to check one more time to make sure that the connections are good and that it still holds a charge. Battery charging. Okay, I'm going to take it out of the cradle, put my clamp on it. I'm actually going to put a piece of paper, piece of napkin between my clamp, put the clamp on it. Some people suggest using ties. I think it's okay, but this clamp holds constant pressure, and the pressure is pretty tight. It says the silicone takes 3 hours to dry, and I'm going to wait 3 hours, charge it, and hopefully my device works, and I'll get back to you and let you know. Thanks, and good luck with your project. Okay, I just got back from my evening run. And it's the following day now. I let it charge overnight. It charged as it normally does. It got to a point where it says charging complete. So I put my strap on, went out for a run. Everything worked as it normally does. In fact, it actually located the satellites quicker than what it normally does. I don't know if that has anything to do with replacing the battery or not, but it normally takes up to a minute to locate the satellites, and it located the satellites within a matter of seconds. But everything went fine. The only comment I do have is all of my history was deleted, and my personal profile was deleted, but that was to be expected. So I'm a happy camper, and it looks like everything worked out fine for me. Sweet. And if you hopefully this saved a Garmin from the graveyard, and it helped somebody. Thanks. Bye-bye.